Let us discuss the digestion and absorption part 2. First question is casinogen is converted to casein by options are insulin, inulin, renin and bile. The answer is renin. In infants, actually the milk protein casinogen is converted into casein with the help of the enzyme renin. This renin also requires the presence of calcium ions. In this question, they have not given without confusion. Sometimes they may give with confusion, wherein instead of double N, they may give a single N called renin. That renin is actually different. That is involved in renin-angiotensin aldosterone mechanism that regulates the blood pressure. That renin is actually secreted from the kidney. This renin is secreted from the gastrointestinal tract, that is the stomach. Then this renin is not present throughout our life. By the time of adult age, the secretion will stop. Second question, hydrochloric acid is secreted by options are parietal cells, chief cells, zymogen cells and goblet cells. The answer is parietal cells. Gastric gland secretions, if we see all the secretions, mucous cells secrete the mucus for protection. The chief cells, otherwise called the zymogen, are the precursor cells of inactive forms of the cells, of inactive form of enzymes of secreting cells, because pepsinogen is an inactive form. Then the or otherwise called peptic cells. This will secrete the pepsinogen. Then the parietal cells are the oxyntic cells that actually secrete the hydrochloric acid and the intrinsic factor. Intrinsic factor, this is otherwise called Cassell's intrinsic factor, that will help in vitamin B12 absorption later along with GAT. It also has the G cells which secrete the gastrin hormone. This will stimulate the release of hydrochloric acid in the stomach. It also has the argentophin or the enterochromaffin cells. This will secrete histamine. This will also stimulate the hydrochloric acid release. This is a picture of the wall of the stomach. You can see the gastric pits here and the cells lining the here the gastric glands along the epithelium. Through this duct only, it is duct-like thing only, the secretions will be thrown out. We can see the parietal cells location here that actually secretes the hydrochloric acid necessary for digestion. Third question is succus entericus is a term used for. The options are the junction of ileum and colon, inflammation of the intestine, vermiform appendix, or the digestive juice of intestine. Succus means it is the extracted juice. Then entericus means with intestinal. So it is the intestinal juice, which is the digestive juice of the intestine. So in the intestine, so what does succus entericus, the intestinal juice, contain is the secretions from the Brunner's gland in the duodenum as well as the other intestinal gland secretions. Let us see what are the secretions. So Brunner's gland will mainly secrete mucus and then little of enzymes. Other intestinal glands will secrete the cells are the absorbing columnar parenchymal cells are the enterocytes. They will produce the enterokinase or the enteropeptidase enzyme. This actually is helpful for activating the trypsinogen that is secreted from the pancreas to act on the proteins, and then it also secretes the bicarbonate ions to neutralize the acidic kind that is coming from the stomach, and they also help in absorbing the water and the electrolytes. These are the majority of the cells in the occupying the small intestine. Then the goblet cells, they secrete mucus to protect the cell surfaces, and then the argentophin or the enterochromaffin cells, argentophin or the enteroendocrine cells. These cells secrete the cholecystokinin and the secretin hormones. Let us see the function later and next slides, the following slides. Then the enzymes like maltase, lactase, sucrase, peptidase, lipase, nucleotidases and nucleosidases are also secreted by the intestinal glands. Then the Paneth cells are there. They secrete the lysosomes. They are defensive in function. And then the stem cells. This will replenish the dying cells in the top layer of the epithelium. The next question is fourth one. Pancreatic juice helps in the digestion of. The options are proteins and fats, proteins and carbohydrates, fats and carbohydrates, proteins, fats and carbohydrates. The answer is protein, fats and carbohydrates. Actually, saliva mainly involves in digestion of the starch, that is a carbohydrate, and then bile from the liver secretion helps only in digesting the fat. And then the pancreatic juice alone helps in digesting all three things, proteins, fats as well as carbohydrates. If we see only the secretions from the intestine, this will mainly help in breaking down the digestion of the small peptides and then the disaccharides. Fifth question, enzyme trypsinogen is changed to trypsin by. The options are gastrin, entropeptidase, enterogastrone and secretin. The answer is the entropeptidase. Enterogastrone means the hormones that are secreted in the intestine. So gastrin, secretin, cholecystokinin, everything belongs to the same group. So with this we can eliminate all these three options. The answer is the entropeptidase. The inactive trypsinogen is converted to trypsin by this enzyme. This trypsin then later converts the chymotrypsinogen to chymotrypsin. The same like for protein digestion, the pepsinogen is converted to pepsin by hydrochloric acid in the stomach. This happens in the stomach, and the initiator for protein digestion in the stomach will be the hydrochloric acid. That will help. For here, that is in the small intestine, it will be the entropeptidase. The sixth question is the gastric juice secretion is inhibited by. The options are gastrin, entropeptidase, and enterogastrone and the secretin. The answer is enterogastrone, which is the gastrointestinal polypeptide. Here what they mean, actually enterogastrone includes secretin, cholecystokinin as well as the gastrointestinal polypeptide. The one that inhibits the secretion from the stomach, that is gastric region, is the gastrointestinal polypeptide. Hence the answer is specific answer is a gastrointestinal polypeptide. So from the small intestine, if we see at the duodenal area, three different hormones are secreted. The first one, gastric inhibitory polypeptide, will inhibit the secretion of the gastric juice of the stomach, so that this area will become alkaline for it. And then it also once the food passes here, these all things will happen. And if the food is having more amount of fat, then it will secrete more of cholecystokinin and stimulate the gallbladder. If it is more acidic kind, so to neutralize, this will stimulate the pancreas through the enzyme secretin to secrete more of bicarbonates. Also little by little only it can digest. So for in order to take some time, so that this sphincter here closes here and the peristalsis is stopped, so that the duodenum can work on the food that is come to here. It will secrete the hormone called motilin that will inhibit the movement from the stomach. And if we see, the stomach itself has a hormone called the gastrin that will actually stimulate the secretion of gastric juice in the stomach. Seventh question is, most of the fat digestion occurs in. The options are rectum, stomach, colon and small intestine. If we see, for fat digestion, we need the secretion from the liver first. So where the liver joins, it is the small intestine. So the answer will be the small intestine. Pancreatic lipase actually acts only on the fat that is already emulsified or covered by the bile. It cannot act directly on the fat. So if we see the picture here, we already saw this earlier. The fat globules or the lipids will be joined by the bile salts. So this is called emulsification, and after this it will be digested by the lipases, pancreatic lipases, and they will be the fat, large chain fats will be broken down into small free fatty acids like the monoglycerides. Like if it was cholesterol or triglyceride, they will all be broken into the monoglycerides, and bile salts separate at this stage also. Again, they will be covered on the outer portion by the bile salts to make it hydrophilic, so that it can called the miscellace, so that it can enter into the epithelial cells of the intestine, and then it will be again the bile salt will be removed, and the small protein from the cell will join with the fat, forming chylomicron, which will be transported later through the lymph lacteals that is present in the vilus of the small intestine and then to the blood. The 8th question is, which enzyme initiates protein digestion? The options are pepsin, trypsin, aminopeptidase, carboxypeptidase. The answer is, it is the pepsin. So pepsinogen is, we already saw earlier slides, pepsinogen is converted to pepsin by the hydrochloric acid. In the small intestine, it is by the trypsinogen. Chymotrypsin later comes, and they will all break the protein into the dipeptides. If we see the carbohydrate digestion, it actually starts in the mouth through the salivary amylase or the ptyalin enzyme. Protein digestion actually starts in the stomach. Then the ninth question, the dash juice contains dash that neutralizes majority of hydrochloric acid in the duodenum. The options are bile juice and bicarbonate secretion, pancreatic juice and bicarbonate secretion, gastric juice and the mucus secretion, or gastric juice and the bicarbonate. The answer is pancreatic juice and the bicarbonate. The pancreatic juice only contains the bicarbonate as well as the mucus, so that the pH is maintained to 7.4. Up to 8 it is being maintained. This will neutralize majority of hydrochloric acid that is coming from the acid, the acidic chyme coming from the stomach. Next question is 10th one, match the following. On the left side they are given the parts of the digestive region, and right side they have given various nutrients that will be absorbed in which region is being asked. So if we see stomach actually helps in absorbing alcohol, aspirin and caffeine. Then the ileum will be helping in absorbing the vitamin B12 and the bile salts. Then the large intestine, if we see the large intestine, this will help in absorbing the water and the electrolytes. Then the duodenum and the jejunum. Duodenum is also separately given. So duodenum and jejunum together will help in absorbing the folate ion. The duodenum alone will help in absorbing the iron. Then the whole of the small intestine will help in absorbing the most other nutrients. So the same is represented here. The importance of knowing which is being absorbed in which area of the gastrointestinal tract is that if a patient is having folate deficiency alone, if it is in their blood, but otherwise no other problem is there, or we can identify, even if dietary supplement is given, the patient is suffering, means maybe there is some problem with the duodenal and jejunal absorption is there, like that we can find. Or if the patient is having megaloblastic anemia, then vitamin B12 absorption is affected, we can see. So we can find that there is some problem at the terminal part of the ileum, like that we can identify. The 11th question is chyme is. Options are food mixed with the gastric juice. It is an intestinal juice. It is a gastric juice alone, or it is a bile and pancreatic juice, or it is a food mixed with the saliva. The answer is it is a food mixed with the gastric juice. So what is chyme? It is a cream-like liquid that is formed in the stomach. This happens by the mixing up of food along with the secretions in the stomach. That is the gastric juice. The 12th question is food undergoes. Options are absorption and then ingestion. Ingestion means taking in, eating. So after eating only it is absorbed. So the option is not right. Then assimilation and then ingestion. Assimilation means absorption of nutrients by the at the cellular level, and digestion means passing away of pieces. So this is right. The next one is absorption and then digestion. Only after digesting we can absorb. So this option is wrong. Then the chemical digestion and then mechanical breakdown. First mechanical, that is physically we break down into small parts with the teeth, and then only the chemical digestion starts. So this cannot be the answer. The sequence is we ingest or eat it, mechanically we break with the teeth, then followed by that salivary enzymes will act chemical breakdown, then after that again chemical digestion continues in the stomach as well as through the pancreatic and the liver secretions in the small intestine, and then along the small intestine, mainly in the jejunum, ileum areas, absorption will happen, and then the food will be carried through the blood to the liver through the nutrients will be carried to the liver through the portal circulation, and then it will enter the blood, and from the blood the cells will take up, that is the assimilation, and then the rest waste products will be excreted out, which is the digestion. 13th one, fat digestion is initiated by options are salivary lipase, pancreatic lipase, gastric lipase, and bile. The answer is bile. Pancreatic lipase cannot act directly on fat if bile is not secreted. Only after emulsification, as we have already seen in the one of previous slides, that is needed. Then 14th question is gastric juice secretion starts when. Options are food enters the stomach, food enters the mouth, food enters the intestine, none of the above. The answer is when food enters the mouth. This is because there is neural stimulation when actually the gastric juice secretion is divided into 4 different phases. In the cephalic phase, which means the head. So during this phase, and respond to these senses, like if we hear about our favorite food, or if we see a favorite food, or if we smell the food, or like mental means if we think about a favorite food itself, we will feel that little bit even in salivation we may feel in the stomach also a little, about 20% of the gastric juice total secretion of the digestive juice secretion will start by this time itself. So before the food enters the stomach itself, the gastric juice will be secreted due to this response to this our senses, like the hearing or seeing, or and then the mental by thinking about it itself. This is mainly controlled by the vagal nerve. Then the second phase is the gastric phase, that is when the food enters into the stomach. Here the distension of the antral, the distal area of the stomach will cause secretion of more of gastric juice because food is entering and then will load down there. Yeah. So and also if proteins are present, because pepsinogen is there in stomach, proteination starts here, no? So if protein is present also, this juice secretion gastric phase will start. This is through the vagal as well as the local nerves, and then hormonal control, the gastrin histamine stimulation is also there. Then the third phase is the intestinal phase, when food enters the intestine, again in response to the presence of gastrin as well as the smaller amino acids presence, the will stimulate the secretion of the gastric juice. This is also controlled by the nerves, that is a vagal nerve, and then by the hormonal control through the secretin gastrointestinal polypeptide as well as the cholecystokinin. Then the fourth phase is the interdigestive phase. This happens when food is not taken in between time. Actually, during morning, like circadian rhythm, due to this phase there will be the secretion will be less, but as it progresses, the day progresses, the secretion between the digestive time will be increasing by the end of the day. 15th question is absorption across GAT occurs by options are active transport, facilitated transport, simple diffusion, all of the above. The answer is all of the above. Let us see which nutrient takes which form of transport. Simple diffusion. If we see the simple diffusion, whichever nutrients are present on the extracellular, that is in the lumen of the intestine, will easily pass through without any problem, as if there is no gate, no cell wall, cell plasma membrane is present. It will just pass through. So these nutrients are the sodium, glucose and amino acids. But this will occur only when the concentration gradient is favorable. That is when there is lower concentration of those molecules here within the cell, and higher concentration is present in the lumen. Only then this occurs. Once the saturation occurs and they become equal, these same nutrients, that is the sodium, glucose as well as the amino acids, now have to move actively against the concentration gradient, that is from the lower intraluminar level to the higher intracellular level. So for that we need this system called the active transport. So what is meant by active transport is we need to spend some energy so as to take it in. So that energy in our body is actually provided by the breaking up of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, into the ADP, adenosine diphosphate, and an inorganic phosphate. So by the breaking up of this, the ion channel will open and the necessary nutrient will actually pass through. Okay, then the other form of the simple diffusion will come under passive transport, because we don't spend any energy for that. Another form of passive diffusion is facilitated transport. You will see that here now. This occurs for fructose. Along with sodium, the fructose will move through. Whenever sodium ion enters, it will go through this carrier protein molecule and will just go into intracellularly, but it cannot move through every area of the along the plasma membrane. It needs the presence of this special integral proteins carrier molecules in the plasma membrane. Through that and along with the sodium ion only it can enter. So this is a facilitated form of passive transport. Then about the other substances, if we see, they may go select either of these ways, and then water transport occurs based on the osmotic gradient. So what is osmotic gradient is according based on how much solute is present, that area will have more amount of water, and if the other outer area is having less amount of solute, the water will be less. So initially all the nutrients are present extracellularly, so here the water will be too much in the lumen. But as every nutrient is broken down and then absorbed into small in the form of smaller molecules into the intracellular space, the concentration of the solutes will be lesser in the lumen. So the water, excess water, because of the osmotic gradient, will easily just cross the plasma membrane and enter into the cells and then into the blood. The next question is 16. Functions of liver are all except. Options are breakdown of it breaks down the RBCs, or produces the digestive enzymes, activates the lipases, or removes the toxins. The answer is it produces the digestive enzyme. See, all except is asked. So let us see the functions of liver. We know that it secretes the bile, and the bile is actually a breakdown product of the RBCs. The aging and defective blood cells are broken down. So this also is easy to remember. Then the liver actually stores the glucose in itself. It is a storage container for the liver. Sorry, for the glucose. So glucose we know is stored in the form of glycogen, and whenever we need glucose, it will disperse, convert the glycogen to glucose, and then it will pass it into the bloodstream with the help of the pancreatic hormonal stimulation. Then it stores that is through glucagon, pancreatic hormone. Then it stores the fat also, and the fat soluble vitamins, and then the iron is also stored in the liver, because of we are breaking down the red blood cells, no, that say iron is also stored there. Then it detoxifies the toxic substances, which is one of the important functions protecting us. Then it also it does not store the protein. So what will happen is excess of the proteins will be converted into urea, and then excreted through the converted into urea in the liver, and will be excreted through the kidneys. But there are some amino acids that are produced by our own body, which are called the non-essential amino acids. So they will modify and produce. The synthesis also occurs in the liver. 17th question is, saliva contains all except. Options are tyalin, lysozyme, electrolytes, and water. Protease. The answer is the protease. Let us see the contents of the saliva. The major content is water, and then it has the electrolytes like the sodium ions, potassium chloride, and the bicarbonate ions. Then the salivary amylase are the tyalin to digest the carbohydrate, and then for protection we have the lysozyme that kills the microbes, and then the lubricant mucus, that is a form of glycoprotein. So salivary amylase, another point to notice, it breaks down about 30% of the ingested carbohydrate, complex carbohydrate. 17th question is, true about insoluble fibers is. Options are, we don't need to eat these insoluble fibers. We need this to regulate the bowel movements. Third one is, we can absorb them directly in the small intestine. Fourth one is, it is harmful to the body. The answer is, we need them to regulate the bowel movements. Let us see what about the insoluble and the soluble fibers. If we see the insoluble fibers, they are not actually used as a nutrient. They are not absorbed in our body. It will actually be just excreted by us. So this is a roughage only, but this presence of this will help in moving the bulk of waste through the intestine. So this will help in regular bowel movement and will prevent constipation in us. So this is needed by our body. So it is not used for producing any energy as a nutrient. And then soluble fibers are also there. So the soluble fibers usually will swell and soak up the toxins that is present in the food, and also the waste in the digestive system. What these will do is, they will retain everything inside the lumen. So what will happen is, the movement of the food along the digestive tract will be slow, so that more time is there for the digestive enzymes to act. This is usually given when someone is having continuous diarrhea, like the irritable bowel syndrome. So for them, even though enzymes may be secreted, because of the irritable bowel syndrome, the whatever food is taken will be immediately excreted very soon. So we can slow the digestion movement along the digestive tract by providing the soluble fibers to them. So let us see what are soluble and insoluble fibers in our food. Let us see the soluble fibers first. See, most of the fruits that we have, and the nuts like the groundnuts, most of the nuts, and then the pulses or the legumes, like the chana dal or the black gram, urad dal. All these are soluble fibers, and they act as demulcents because they will also form a mucus like protective coating over the cells for some time, so that the irritation will not be there, and that will slow down the movement of food along the digestive tract. Next, the insoluble fiber. So these are present in most of the vegetables, and then the cereals or the grains, like the rice. The husk will have, the bran will have, not the inside endosperm will not have this red rice, and then wheat picture is shown here. So the insoluble fiber will be helping in moving the food faster along the digestive tract, and hence this will act like a laxative. 18th one, absorption of fatty acids occurs through, options are capillaries in small intestinal villi, lymph lacteals in small intestinal villi, colon, or the mucosa of stomach. The answer is lymph lacteals in the small intestinal villi. If we see the all the fat derivatives, the fatty acids, glycerol, and the monoglycerides, everything will be absorbed from the intestinal epithelial cell directly into the small lymph vessels called the lymph lacteals in the villi of the small intestine. All other nutrients will be entering into the small blood vessels, that is the capillaries within the epithelium of the intestinal villi. So if you see the picture, this is the intestinal villi. The green one is the lymph vessel. So after entering into the epithelial cell, they will enter into the small lymph vessel that will later enter the bloodstream when the diameter of the vessels increase. Here through the capillaries, other nutrients are absorbed. The red one shown here is the small arteriole and capillary, and the green, the blue one is the smaller venules. So other nutrients will all enter the capillaries. Next question is 19th. Which digestive part is longest in length? Options are large intestine, stomach, esophagus, and small intestine. The answer is small intestine. Small intestine is actually not small. The width appears narrow. Maybe that is the reason they went as small intestine. Let us see the length. Our throat area, in this area only the pharynx is present. No? So this is very small. It is about 12 centimeter. Then from the neck, throat region till the lower level of the costal cartilages or the chest bones is the esophagus. So that will be about the length, little less than the length of a long size scale. So it is about 24 centimeters. Then the small intestine. So the though the small intestine occupied area appears small, there are so many foldings inside. So this is the largest or longest in length, occupying about 4 meters, and then the large intestine, this will occupy only. 20th question is, in hiatus hernia, options are stomach protrudes above the diaphragm. It is also called diaphragmatic hernia. It may have heartburn too, or all of the above. The answer is all of the above. Let us see what is this. See, when this is the esophagus area and this is the stomach area. In between these two will be the lower esophageal sphincter, or otherwise called the cardiac sphincter, and the diaphragm through the small opening in the diaphragm, the one that separates the thorax and the abdominal area, will be passing through. The food pipe will pass and enter. Sometimes the upper part of the stomach will like a balloon that is compressed in between will just protrude above into the diaphragmatic, above the diaphragm into the upper thoracic area. So what will happen is, whenever there is gastric secretion, secretion will happen in this area also. Usually here this area will be occupied by the esophagus, but now it is occupied by the part of stomach. So the acid secreted, what will happen, it will cause heartburn to the person. Acidity will be happening because hydrochloric acid will be secreted here. Then causing pain, and this is called as the hiatus hernia. Thank you.